Encounters with extraterrestrials are generally benign. Folks who claim that they've seen a UFO in the sky or some other distant, unexplained object. But then there are some cases of people who have had face-to-face encounters with aliens that are so detailed and disturbing that they'll send chills down your spine. Here are the 10 creepiest alien encounters ever documented. Number 10 is Peter Currie. On July 23, 1992, a 28-year-old man named Peter Currie was fast asleep in his home in Sydney, Australia. Everything was quiet around him. That was until two bizarre figures appeared right before him. These figures were anything but human. Frozen with fear, Peter watched as the beings stared at him, and suddenly they launched into an attack. When the attack was over, Peter was left disoriented yet still alive. The two alien beings had left, seemingly scared off by Peter's attempts at defense. But what makes this alien encounter so interesting is that it's one of the only instances where physical evidence was left behind. Investigators on the case maintain that hair was extracted from the scene and tested. The DNA results showed that what attacked Peter Currie was barely human and perhaps from another planet. Number 9 is Sheila Young. A remote alien encounter occurred in Montana in 1989. Sheila Young was in her late 20s at the time. One night, she and her husband and 3 children were terrorized. It began when they saw a white streak across the sky outside of their home. When they investigated the next day, they could see that the treetops had been burned off. But there was no evidence of a crashed object. The next morning at around 3 a.m., the family were awoken by bright lights which surrounded the house and pulsated. Despite their best efforts, strange human-like beings came into their home and performed a series of gruesome experiments on the family. Sheila claims that this happened more than once across a 6-month period, and that her now grown-up children suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder because of the terrifying encounters. Number 8 is Alan Godfrey. In Alan Godfrey's book, Who and What Were They?, the former British police officer describes an alien encounter in the winter of 1980. Rather than remaining silent out of embarrassment for such an unusual claim, Alan went to the press and told of how he was out searching for missing cattle on some farmland when he saw a large mass hovering in the sky above him. Needless to say, Alan's career as a police officer was effectively over after that. However, documents were discovered that showed that a neighboring police force had also registered complaints of a strange blue light in the sky that same night. Over the years, other memories slowly came back to Alan from that time. He had been abducted and questioned by a strange alien creature before finally being returned to Earth with his memory partially wiped. Number 7 is the Pensacola Abductions. The Pensacola Abduction is a famous case among UFO enthusiasts. It took place in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker had an unforgettable and terrifying experience in the evening of October 11th, 1973. They were fishing together on the west bank of the Pascagoula River. This was normally a serene spot, but the quiet was soon broken by a pulsating and whirring sound from above. The two men were blinded by the flashing lights in the sky, emanating from a huge floating object. The light paralyzed both men, and while they couldn't move, 3 humanoid creatures descended from the craft above them and subjected both men to a traumatic physical examination. They were soon returned to the banks of the river, traumatized in a strange waking dream state. To this day, both men live with PTSD over the event. Number 6 is STS-48. It's not just ordinary people who witness extraterrestrial creatures carrying out their obscure plans. NASA astronauts themselves have even questioned some of the things that they've seen while orbiting our planet. In September of 1991, a space shuttle mission known as STS-48 was in a stable orbit, releasing a satellite into space. During the flight, the astronauts on board were shocked by an unusual object that they could see through their windows. This object was not moving like a piece of rock would. It sped off at a great speed and then changed direction suddenly. The astronauts were terrified by this encounter, knowing that while in space there was no one to help them. Video of the encounter was released, and many still believe that the shuttle crew captured conclusive evidence that Earth is being visited by aliens from another world. Number 5 is Frederick Valentine. Frederick Valentine was on a training flight in a light aircraft across the Bass Strait off the Australian coast. It was October 21st, 1978, and after some flight time, Valentine contacted Melbourne Air Traffic Control with a harrowing plea. At first, he asked if there was any air traffic below him, but the traffic controller responded that there was none. And yet, Frederick Valentine claimed that there was something beneath him. He described in detail an aircraft hovering beneath him. The traffic controller asked Valentine what type of aircraft it was, and all Valentine could say was that it was a bright object, as if it were shining. Suddenly, the strange aircraft was above him. He reported this before a strange scraping sound was then heard over the airwaves, and Frederick Valentine was never heard from again. Number 4 is the green fireballs of New Mexico. Between 1948 and 1955, there was something strange in the skies above New Mexico. Hundreds of people, including military personnel, physicists, and other military scientists, witnessed strange green fireballs and floating lights in the sky. These observations were supported by many accounts from the general public who had seen the strange phenomena as well. Because the creepy lights were seen above the Los Alamos National Laboratory, where nuclear weapons were being developed, the government investigated as a matter of national security. A man named Dr. La Paz, who was a meteor expert, was brought in to look at the evidence. He concluded that the lights were not meteors, but instead some sort of radical new aircraft, technology which no country possessed at that time. Number 3 is Alan Turner. A former RAF officer came forward in 2008 to fight against the United Kingdom government's official denial of alien encounters. His name was Wing Commander Alan Turner, and he said he had been sworn to secrecy by the government in 1971. He personally tracked radar data which showed 7 unidentified aircraft speeding through British airspace. The movement of the craft, especially how quickly they ascended straight up through the atmosphere, led Turner to believe that the craft were not terrestrial in design. Turner ordered a nearby jet, which was already in the air at the time, to intercept the intruders. That pilot saw the same radar blips on his screen. Everyone involved was ordered to never repeat what they had seen ever again. And Turner claims that many others within the British Air Force Command had similar experiences. However, they were silenced. Number 2 is Whitley Streiber. Whitley Streiber is best known for his horror novels, but the American writer also claims to have encountered aliens. Streiber states that in December of 1985, he was in a cabin in upstate New York when something disturbing happened. A group of small humanoids entered the cabin and dragged him out of bed. He was taken into a room where a needle was pierced into his head behind his ear. After a series of grueling injections and experiments, Streiber was returned to his cabin traumatized. Throughout his life, Streiber had several encounters with those beings. While some are skeptical of his accounts, Streiber has sacrificed his reputation in order to maintain that these beings are real. However, what's most worrying is that the medical investigation found scars on Streiber's brain, strange lesions which had never been explained. And number 1 is the Hungarian Woman. One of the strangest alien encounters on record involved an unnamed Hungarian woman. While at home on the evening of January 24th, 1992, the woman saw a spherical object appear in her kitchen. The object then began to vibrate and glow. Suddenly, an almost human figure appeared right next to the light. The Hungarian woman screamed and fled. However, a few days later, she woke up in her bed, feeling as though she was being controlled by alien intelligence. She left her house and found another floating light anomaly in the dark. After entering the anomaly, she returned to her house with strange marks across her abdomen and a sharp pain. Doctors could find no conventional explanation for how the marks even appeared on her skin, and the woman was left in fear that one day the strange light and figures would return. So, these were the 10 creepiest alien encounters ever documented, and these were only the ones that were actually recorded. Many more are believed to exist out there, but no one has been willing to speak up. The question is, do you believe in aliens?